Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and thank God we got a slower week. Shame it's not better. And this is Billboard BREAKDOwn. I don't remember. Alright, nearing the end of the summer, a bit of a post-album bomb breather before next week could well be overwhelming from so many sides. And given how much I've got going on offline, plus the obscenely stacked slate of reviews on the main channel, I'm gonna try to keep this brisk and not waste anyone's time. Nobody's gonna cause that much of a fuss. Right? Now that's not saying the state of the charts is good at the moment, God no. Looking at the top 10, Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters is right back at number 1 because the streaming is stable and the sales held up, as it appears that radio has finally started throwing some traction behind this. And y'all know this isn't a good thing for the chart's health in general, right? I know I'm way cooler on this movie than most, but it kinda says something that the cartoon simulacrum of K-pop from Netflix is doing as well, if not better, than the majority of actual K-pop crossover acts, even if it's coming from legit artists behind the scenes. Now granted, when your competition's Ordinary by Alex Warren at number 2, which looks to be bleeding some radio and sales, even if streaming's largely holding up, or What I Want by Morgan Wallen featuring Tate McRae at number 3, which is rock solid on streaming but looks to be stalling on the already slow radio, I unfortunately get it. Truthfully, at least the next two K-pop Demon Hunters songs are better, with Your Idol at number 4 and Soda Pop at number 5, riding streaming and sales to the goddamn bank. And hell, that was enough to shove past Love Me Not by Raven Lenae at number 6. Radio was mostly wavering this week, and any fluctuations there will be felt more acutely given the weaker streams or sales. At least it held over Lose Control by Teddy Swims, which is still at number 7 and losing across the board, just not as bad as Daisies by Justin Bieber slipping down to number 8, where the radio push has started, but not enough to recoup larger streaming losses. Just great. Then we got Just In Case by Morgan Wallen ebbing back to number 9. Probably would have fallen more given how Nashville radio is dumping it, but streaming plugged in some of the holes. And then yeah, a 4th K-pop Demon Hunters song with How It's Done. Y'all see how this might be excessive? A really bad sign for the Hot 100 that these have been the songs of the summer? All summer? Well, if you needed more of that, let's get to our losers and dropouts, where the Gunna album bomb damn near evaporated in the latter category and took Fix What You Didn't Break by Nate Smith and EO by Bad Bunny with him. I mean, it took the last one long enough for Billboard to actually enforce their own recurrency rules, although not consistently. And when we shift to the losers, we also saw a couple Gunna tracks, with Just Say Dat collapsing to 89 and Forever Be Mine with WizKid at 96. But outside those, Cliché by MGK slid back off the album boost, returned to 90. Hell at Night by Big X The Plug and Ella Langley slid to 61. Probably will rebound next week with his album Impact. Better Me For You, Brown Eyes by Max McNown fell back to 68. And The Subway by Chappell Roan just isn't getting much going at 28. The fact the radio has been painfully slow to pick this up might as well be the biggest goddamn indictment of the year. So alright, what's rushing in to fill the gaps? Well, the returns are a bit of a mixed blessing. I'm pretty happy that Bloodline by Alex Warren and Jelly Rolls back at 94, and Is It a Crime by Mariah the Scientist and Caliuchis is at 95, the latter of whom might see some album impact next week as well. I could have done without Tu Sancho by Fuerza Regida back at 92, or Somebody by Lotto at 97, but we did see a decent number of gains, so let's start off with the quick revivals for TN by Morgan Wallen at 87, and Sparks by Coldplay at 81. Outside those, the returns were split between hip-hop boosts that all feel kind of questionable, when the best is Went Legit by G Herbo at 82, and then we got Typa by Glorilla back at 88, and Rather Lie by Playboy Cardi in the Weekend at 76, when it should have been gone weeks ago. Also might as well tack on Hard Fought Hallelujah by Brandon Lake at 84 in the same camp. Not good. And also a few country-ish boosts, like Bar None by Jordan Davis at 43, Somewhere Over Laredo by Lainey Wilson at 54, and Marlboro Rojo by Fuerza Regida at 69. Again, none of these are especially all that promising, and it leads to, well, thankfully a pretty small list of new arrivals, but let's get it started with number 98, What Kind of Man by Parker McCollum.
Forget the man I am, what kind of man do you need?
I really wish the Parker McCollum that I remember from the independent Texas scene was the same artist who has found success making some of the dullest mainstream country in recent memory. I know some folks have been somewhat impressed, but I'm not one of them. Anyway, this single was released nearly a year ago with Natalie Hemby co-write and Frank Liddell on production. I don't know, maybe a step in the right direction? The binaural, smoky guitar layering supplementing the more traditional shuffle with some big female backing vocals behind the hook, where there is some nice harmonica coming in post-chorus, along with a more extended jam for the outro. Still not really a fan of how McCollum's voice seems to be a little bit louder and tweaked at the very front of the mix, but when you've got a little bit more meat to his lighthearted exasperation at all of his hell-raising ways being dampened by seeing some girl where he wants not to be the man he is, but the man that she needs, it's playful and fun enough, I guess. Again, I don't exactly find this all that special or potent. It feels like a reskimmed template of Better Me For You Brown Eyes by Max McNown in concept. It's not better than that song, but it's also not bad either. I guess fine. No real complaints. Number 91, Let Down by Radiohead. You know what? Sure. Let's have the third single from OK Computer nearly 30 years ago go viral and rechart in 2025. Why the hell not? Pile in the twinkling arpeggiated guitars and pianos to accentuate that gentle ennui around Tom York's crooning before the groove starts to rev up a little around the bleeping touches and the vocals begin claustrophobically piling in all sides. Marvel at all the time signature changes. If you can't tell, Let Down was not one of my favorite songs from OK Computer compared to Paranoid Android or Karma Police, even Electioneering, mostly because it feels dated to a 90s attitude that I can find really grating, building through that existential emptiness around the chill oversaturation of technology, this liminal detachment in a space where if there's so many things, advertisement, art, people, pushing emotion in all of your direction, it just washes into sentiment. Emotion for its own sake. The letdown's acknowledging how unremarkable all of it really feels. Can you tell in the age of the internet and social media overexposure, especially for Gen Z, this might have resonance just like it did for their parents? But when you start thinking through it, the song starts testing my patience. Beyond the cheap meta-analysis of, well, art predominantly runs on emotional response, including to this, are you saying that this song doesn't matter either? Of which Radiohead's answer would probably be, yeah, amidst the larger Kafkaesque bug imagery of the song, everything and everyone, including them, getting crushed underfoot as they cling to whatever passing escapism and the ground slips away beneath them, it's effective. Yeah, especially in describing depression, and also incidentally a fun justification for whatever layer of detached irony that you want. But I don't know, flattening it all to just more postmodern product is a dismal fucking view of art, especially in 2025. And for as much as the band cites Andy Warhol, quite frankly, Warhol would have said what I said too. So yeah, I can't deny that Letdown is effective in what it's trying to do. I just kind of hate the cultural climate that's now embracing it and causing it to go viral. Pretty good song, miserable fucking moment. Number 86, Heart of Stone by Jelly Roll.
That somehow you can make a heart of gold from this heart of stone. This heart of stone.
I'm a little shocked that Jelly Roll's still trying to push songs from the album from last year. I guess I shouldn't. He's in the Nashville ecosystem, and given how successful only 2 of the previous singles were, why not try for the third? And, man alive, can the weedy acoustics and wheezy vocal line be pushed back a little bit into the mix to not sound so compressed and loud, alongside the underpowered percussion, the slight electric sizzle, and the strings? They show some dynamics when he starts belting, pushing him back. Why not just be a little more consistent and it would all sound better. Kind of a shame because I actually don't mind the sentiment here, where despite all of his struggles, Jelly Roll is asking for his heart to be more open to the world, not calcified and cold because of all of his bad experiences in a rough past. One thing I somewhat appreciate with Jelly Roll's Christian rock adjacent material, he's at least admitting more of a struggle, a progression, and being able to move past trauma or your dark past forcing you towards cold paranoia. That's the right step to take. Now, if you think Jelly Roll has played out this template a couple too many times, I wouldn't blame you there, but this is one credible mastering job for being pretty damn good. As is right now, I'm sorry, just kind of okay. Number 77, Last One to Know by Gavin Adcock.
Did it to myself, near over and over. Yes, me and my buddy Jim put on a hell of a show. They woke me up this morning, I was the last one to know.
The most depressing thing about covering certain acts and introducing them to y'all for the first time in the Billboard Hot 100, sometimes you know nothing, sometimes you know way too much. Gavin Adcock's in the latter group. The short form of this is that he's a belligerent asshole known for viral concert antics, throwing alcohol at the audience, who often respond in turn and throw stuff back at him, and the entire scene becomes a shit show, which is unfortunately spilled into other country acts getting beers thrown at them, and a whole lot of animosity in Adcock's general direction. Well deserved, I would add. I've been in enough pits to realize anyone chucking shit at the acts on stage should be ejected at best and curb stomped at worst. Maybe Adcock might learn something after a drunk fan rushed his own stage a couple nights ago. And I could go on about his social media rampages, or his shoddy politics, or his embarrassing habit of picking fights with other country acts on social media for attention, but you all get the point. He thinks he's a hellraiser. In that fashion, he's gotten a lot more attention than for his actual music, which unsurprisingly is by far the least interesting part of all this. Yeah, this isn't good. The bass line might be nice, but that ugly, drippy electric guitar and programmed stiffness in the percussion for this oddly somber dirge around his nasal wisp of a voice, it's not exactly pleasant. Where in the arc of the song, he's living hard with his buddies and around women, how he knows he's the last one to understand the impact of his actions. Funny, you'd think that he'd at least sound like he's having fun with it, rather than treat it out as some burned out reality, a severity he can't really handle. It Ain't My Fault by Brothers Osborne, this is not. What honestly reminds me a lot more of is a third-rate Morgan Wallen song, but with a worse melody and groove and production along the way. Just kinda lousy. Please give me a reason why we're keeping this around. Then keep that reason to yourself. Next. And finally, number 70, Imaginary Playerz by Cardi B.
I'm not the other bitch. Whatever you was gonna pay her, you gotta double it. Glory hole. Bitches don't know who they fucking with. Their money, my stocks and share money. Your booking fee is my makeup and hair money. Bitches say I think I'm the shit. And this. Just know you bitches can't live.
I don't know how anyone at Atlantic is looking at this rollout for Cardi B and is not deeply concerned. You honestly thought this was a better plan than trying 2021 after WAP and Up already had a ton of momentum? Are you kidding me? In any case, what got this a lot of attention was the heavy-handed 1997 Jay-Z sample of Imaginary Player, where he was bragging about how nobody could quite flex like he could, and look, I'm sorry. As someone who wasn't much of a Jay-Z fan then or now, outside of a pretty great groove and sample, this doesn't do a lot for me. And I'll be honest, I'm on the fence whether or not this song does much more beyond an increasingly extravagant flex riding that same groove. I appreciate Cardi's subject matter having a bit more diversity in said bragging, and in some of the pot shots at Nicki Minaj, also well deserved, highlighting stan pages online that switch up their allegiance, and some of the popular barriers that Cardi broke through in the rap game. But that was 7 years ago, and I think she could have done a lot more with her flow here than just copying a bunch of Jay's intonations. I think that's what's keeping me cooler on this than I want to be. It's not out of some loyalty to Jay-Z, God no, so much as I just hear a template that Cardi and her team filled in, and minus her usual humor and wild delivery, the bragging and brand name flexing gets kind of tedious. Not for me. So, okay, fine, it's okay. I just don't think this was the flip required to move the needle. And again, I'm real worried about that album. But for now, that was our week. God, that was rough. Worse is going to Last One to Know by Gavin Adcock on that horrible guitar tuning alone, but I gotta be honest, I don't think there's an obvious best here. I guess it's Let Down by Radiohead. Obvious music critic pick, sure, but while I hate a lot of the attitudes that a song like that feeds into and cultivates nowadays, it is very well composed and produced, and it feels like it's trying way harder than nearly everything else here. Next week, though, I expect across the board it's gonna be busy as hell. I'm seeing Somber and Big X the Plug at least. We will have to see. Maybe a bit of Mariah the Scientist too. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you